Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are looking at a game from 1989 between Rafael Vaganian with the white pieces and Nigel Short with the black pieces. Now, we are still discussing our Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation, but this time we are looking at it from black's perspective. In this video, we look at situations where white castles queen side and tries to blow black off the board in an opposite wing attack. Let's see how Grandmaster Nigel Short deals with this. And here's another plan that you can use if you're a black player of the Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation. So Vaganian started off with d4. Nigel played knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, and by transposition, we are here at the Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation. Bishop d3, and Nigel plays this offbeat move, bishop g4 here. Excuse me. This move could be easily met by knight g2 or f3 right away, and just transposing into known plans for white, except white would have gained a tempi here, for instance after f3. Queen c2 is also a normal move in the position. Knight bd7 by Short, h3, and now bishop e6. Knight ge2 by Vaganian, h6 by Nigel. And notice how Nigel is just he avoids the castling right away. All right, he doesn't want to give up the location of his queen of his king so early, rather. Okay, so instead of h6, of course he could have just castled here. All right, but then, hey, white would have had an opportunity to go in for his queenside castling. So as long as white's king is kind of still in the middle of the board, not committed, black does the same thing. So this is an idea that you can keep in mind when the possibility of queenside castling exists. h6, bishop h4, knight h5. Bishops come off the board, and I've said previously that sometimes this bishop exchange, or most of the time rather, this bishop exchange will favor the white player. So now Vaganian finally commits his king. Now here's the key. Nigel doesn't. Knight b6, king b1, and now Nigel castles on the same side of the board, and now we have just a symmetrical position. And this, my friend, is the antidote that you will see in most grandmaster games when white castles queenside in the Queen's Gambit decline exchange variation. Most grandmaster games will see this type of setup where black will also castle queenside and avoid the risk of having this opposite wing attack going on. So for those of you on the white side who love the idea of castling queenside and attacking, I think this kind of takes a little steam steam out of the boat, so to speak, because now the position is pretty equal and symmetrical. So if you can get your opponent to castle quickly and then kind of bait him into castling early, and then you can go for a queenside castle. But if you notice, Nigel waited until white committed his king, all right, before he castled. So that's a strategy for you right there in the Queen's Gambit decline, is if you're black, wait for your opponent to commit his king. All right, don't fall asleep at the board and play by rote and just simply castle, because that's how you can get in a lot of trouble. Game continued. Knight a4, knight takes a4, queen takes a4, king went to b8, rook c1, and I'm gonna accelerate through the rest of the game because it's kind of beyond the scope of what we were talking about, but just so you can see the completion. Again, the game is pretty equal. Nothing really much to write about. White's bishop is bad. Excuse me, black's bishop is bad. But there's a lot of similarities between a Queen's Gambit decline exchange game if both parties castled on the king side. It just happens to be the opposite side of the board. What it is the symmetry is what makes the game so equal. And like I said, right now White has a slight advantage just because his bishop is better. All right, his pieces are a little bit better while Black's are a little bit active. Excuse me, a little bit awkward. And we can see Nigel Short kind of improving his position slowly but surely. Now Nigel activates his pieces on a C file, and he takes on this weakness as a result. Okay, so he's willing to take on the weakness of the isolated pawn, but he activates his pieces. Right, his bishop is much better now. So he has to play a dynamic game since he has the isolated pawn. F3, Queen E5, and Vaganian does, the typical thing you're supposed to do against an isolated pawn, which is build up pressure against it. But however, since White has played F3, now he has his own weakness on E3 to worry about. And these things cause the game to be equal. Bishop F5 check. The king goes into the corner. And then we have some maneuvering. Bishops are traded off. Again, nothing too much to talk about here. Pieces get traded off. We're headed for a draw, but here, this is where a Vaganian makes a mistake here. Probably he should have just opted for a move like Knight C3, and let's say after Queen here, and just Queen E2, and then and let's say, for example, King B7, Knight A4 attacking the rook, Knight C3, and the game is just pretty much equal. There's nothing, that either side can really look forward to. The D pawn is gonna fall, and White will restore material equality. Instead, Vaganian played Rook C1 here. And after King B7, Rook takes, B takes. And now he tried to go for an attack. It's a very tempting move because the king is standing by itself there on the B file. And, the queen is, Black's queen is way on H2. The knight is on F6, so why not attack, right? But Nigel just simply play C4, keeping the position closed. King B2. And now Queen G2. Attacking the F3 pawn. How to protect it. Vaganian plays F4, but now he falls victim to a brutal tactical shot. Can you see it? If you want, you can pause the video. And the tactical blow is C3. Now, most of you can see that, of course, if he captures with the knight, the queen will be hanging. So that's out of the question. If he captures with the queen, then the knight is hanging. That's a problem. And if he captures with the king, then can you see the fork on E4? And that's why C3 works. So choosing the lesser of two evils, of three evils rather, Queen takes C3 was played. Now Queen takes E2 check, and the game is pretty much over for all intents and purposes. I'll just speed through the rest. Of course, Nigel then tries to trade queens, which he does, and the rest of the game really needs no comment. But the main point, as I just finish up, of course, Nigel went on to win this game. Then after G6, white resigned. Okay, so just wrapping up, the I'm not gonna call it a remedy or solution, but the key thing to remember is that to avoid this getting smashed on the king side by white in this variation, just be aware, enough over the board that you can keep your king in the middle. Also, if the white king is in the middle, you can stay in the middle too. When he castles, then you castle. All right. Don't commit your king too early and give him the opportunity to play h3 g4 and start a quick king side attack. You can play it, but why subject yourself to a dangerous attack if you can just avoid it by simple means, by just paying attention? And that's all that there is to it. It's not magic. Here again, we see just some waiting moves being played, and Nigel just plays h6. Like many players would have just castled here, which again, there's nothing wrong with it, but you're just asking, you might be biting off more than you can chew here. Okay, like there's nothing wrong with this position. Black is not lost, but with this h3 move already played, g4 is already in the mix, f4, all of these moves are just, ready to flow for white. Okay, so then it's a matter of whose attack gets in first, if you're prepared to play that kind of game. So again, if you look at a lot of Grandmaster games in this particular variation, you will see that most of them don't even play that game. What they'll do is they'll simply do what Nigel did here, which is kind of mirror the king, the opponent's king, and he hasn't committed his king yet. So finally, when he does, right, Nigel just doesn't go, just doesn't castle here. Right, it'd be silly. Again, you're inviting g4 just right away. Instead, he just simply plays knight b6, king b1, and then castle. And now there's nothing to worry about. So that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something, again, from the black side of the Queen's Gambit. And if you don't know what's going on, if this is the first video that you saw, this is part of a whole series. I looked at the white side of white's 3 most common plans in the Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation, and now I'm looking at black's antidotes to those 3 most common plans that white often plays. All right, so that way you have a more complete overview and understanding of the ideas and strategies of both sides in this particular opening. So with that said, please like and subscribe, comment. I like reading your comments down below. Also, please donate and support my channel. And also there's links to videos, DVDs / books, always related to whatever opening that we're discussing in the video. So for this one, Queen's Gambit Decline, of course. And I'll see you guys on the next video.